Greetings and welcome to the Back Pocket Video Game Awards for 2024.
If that's what they're called.
They could be. Let's check the screen behind me. Close enough. Welcome to the awards. We are now looking at the worst game of the year. This is a bit of a funny one because it
We're not
opens
actually
up...
looking at it right now.
We will look at it shortly and we'll list them all off.
Closing my eyes the whole
This
time.
is strange because are we talking about like worst as in how it functions? Are we talking about the worst as in the one we just hated, we may have had expectations for? The category's wide open.
It is wide open. I think like a big factor is expectation versus reality.
Isn't that biggest disappointment?
Because otherwise, literally the worst game is something that's on Steam from the bottom of the barrel.
True.
It's some sex game that some kid made. And I played it. It was actually really good.
Yeah,
so
I was
that's
about
why
to
it's not
say.
on this list.
Wait for that in Game of the Year.
Yeah.
Are we doing
We
most
should have done an
disappointing?
award for best hentai game, I think. I think
Christ.
that would have been a good idea.
Are we doing most disappointing, or is that what this
No.
is now?
I feel
No,
like
no,
this
no.
is
So
a
this kind of ropes.
disappointment.
Yeah, this
The
is
thing
everything
is,
in.
it was a great year for games. Like, it
Yeah.
was a really, really good year. And I'd say the vast majority of these are not horrible games.
They're all
just
playable.
not that great.
Yeah.
You know?
You
Disappointing.
don't play much.
No, but unfortunately, most of the games I've played this year are on this list.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah.
All right, we'll get into the list now.
Maybe
and have a
that's
look at
why you
them.
don't play
Yeah,
so
I think
many.
so.
You picked the wrong
I
list.
found the bottom of the barrel.
All right, so let's go through this. I'll quickly shout out all the games that are on our list. This is kind of like checking the bottom of a barrel kind of thing. Test Drive Unlimited, Solar Crown. Will, you know a lot about that. Silent Hill, The Short Message, Funko Fusion, Foam Stars, The First Descendant, South Park Snow Day, Skull and Bones, Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, Endless Ocean, Luminous, Concord, Alone in the Dark, Squirrel with a Gun, Death Note Killer Within, Kong Survivor Instinct, Slitterhead, Lollipop Chainsaw, Repop, Mortal Kombat 1, Chaos Reigns, Dustborn, and Nutria The Last Song, and of course, the casting of Frank Stone.
Beautifully read.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
You
Good
nailed
job.
every syllable.
We're meant to not
them all right.
timestamp these. This is the first one we're doing, so expect more energy now than whatever one you watch
It's
later
going to get
on.
sloppy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, in and around this.
Sloppy.
What we do with these, we'll explain it in every video, is we're going to knock out all the ones here that we don't think even make our list at all. We're essentially
So we're picking out the good ones here.
we're picking
gonna
out the
delete
best
them.
of the worst.
Yeah.
Don't sue us, Red Letter Media. But we're going to boil this down to 5, and then we'll order them. So we're trying to pick...
Number one is the worst.
Number
the
one is
absolute
the worst.
game of the year.
So what we're going to be knocking out now, and stay with us, it gets confusing, is the stuff that's actually okay. That's probably all right in the scheme of things.
Yep.
Next to some of these games on here stands above as a better gameplay experience.
Now,
is
we
what
haven't
we're looking
discussed this, but should we just go around the room and everyone just takes the one off the list that they think doesn't deserve to be worst game of the year?
at. Yes.
We can have an argument if you feel otherwise. We can have a little bit of a debate, but if everyone has no other strong opinions, no feelings one way or the other, it goes, and then we'll just absolutely roast the games that get to the top 5.
Yep. I
Ruby.
reckon that's fair.
What there screams out to you, this was okay, wasn't the worst.
I think Death Note Killer Within.
Is that the one you played?
That's the one I played.
Okay, so
and
you've had fun with it?
I had great fun with it. It's real cheeky. It's basically like an Among Us clone, but I feel like they add enough that it doesn't feel like a straight Among Us clone.
Okay.
And, it's entertaining. I'd say that the stinkiest thing about it is probably the weird, like, season pass microtransactions that aren't really a season pass and
Fair enough.
have no place there.
And it uses its IP quite well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, get rid of it.
Let's remove
Too
that. Peter.
I would say, and maybe this is the one that you'd pick, but Skull and Bones shouldn't be on this list.
I agree. I think it's it's more than a serviceable game.
It's a good game. It is not a quadruple A game.
It is
which
a
is
serviceable
why
game that shouldn't
people
be a game as
torn
well.
to
Yeah.
shreds.
It shouldn't be a game as a live service. It should have had it should have the ability to play offline
Yeah.
and just play single player, because that would essentially just be the single player of a Black Flag.
Yeah,
It was
shouldn't
the
be.
biggest disappointment as a quadruple A game.
I would say Suicide
Yeah.
Squad takes the cake for that.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's
Fair enough.
that's
All right.
opinions.
Skull and Bones off the list. I'm gonna say that. Again, to be perfectly honest, we haven't played a lot of these, but we've seen them talked about. We've read reviews. We've watched reviews. I'm gonna say that I think Foam Stars was totally playable. Was just trying to be a Splatoon in a different realm.
Yep.
People really enjoyed it. It just copped so much flack from the start. I don't think it was marketed very well. It probably has no one playing it anymore, which is not, I think, the fault of how it was marketed and what it was sold as. But it was actually, on a technical level, quite impressive.
Cool.
And
I would say that not a single game on this list was marketed well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's
entirely
probably why they're there as well. But I'd say Foam Stars can get a pass.
On the ones I know of, I think they all belong here. So the only one that I can think of that I've had experience with is Squirrel with a Gun through the playback.
Yeah.
And I didn't hear anything beyond terrible about it.
Yeah.
I think that it did what it needed to do. You
was
guys
fun, it was
enjoyed
silly.
it.
We had fun. I think,
yeah.
on a technical level, it was definitely showing its
yeah.
flaws here and there, but it wasn't trying to hide them. So I think commends.
I think it should leave the board. It doesn't
Yeah,
need to be
it felt
here.
a little Goat Simulator.
Totally,
I
yeah.
like.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. We should preface as well that everything here deserves to be here. These are all bad games that are on the worst game.
Yes.
These-
so
they
we're not
could have
giving
been- they
these. We're
could
not
have
saying these are
achieved
any
more.
better than they should be.
Yeah.
But they got to get off the
There
list.
is worse.
I would also say, I reckon we could do one more round of that because we got to get it down pretty low. And I think something like Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown, from your experience with it, shouldn't be on this list. It's a bad version of an open world driving game. There are plenty of games that trump it, but also it is totally functional.
Sorry.
So
It's also still getting. They're still servicing. It's still getting updates.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
They've just got added an extra island, so they're
Ooh.
still giving it content. So it's not.
There were so many games that were supposed to be on this list that I didn't end up adding because on release they were panned, but then months later were loved.
Yep.
Okay,
So it's
if
a really
we get rid
hard
of
one.
Test Drive, I'm going to propose something that is going to maybe throw a bit of a spanner in the works here. There's too many here that I don't know how to take out, but there's ones that I think deserve to be on that 5.
yes.
So now potentially, why don't we just grab the one each that we think needs to be on this 5?
okay.
From this list.
And
Yeah,
from
yeah,
this
yeah.
list, and
Then
sure,
we'll end up with 4, and then we can pick the last one.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
nice, yeah.
Because I think, otherwise we're just going to be knocking out ones that we don't know enough about.
Yeah.
Which there's a few in there that I don't. So the rest of these lists we'll knock them all out. But I think here, so does anyone feel strongly about anything that
I
deserves...
want to do what everyone should do with Funkos and rip that off the list as my pick because I think
You want to put that on the 5?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Great. Okay.
Top 5.
Will's
Yeah.
got a... that's staying?
Yeah.
Funko's saying,
Yeah.
I was glad that happened because
Yeah.
I was going to make sure that stayed.
Yeah.
Ruby, do you have one there that you just hate? And we know how much you love to talk about hating games. One's got to die.
I think I'm living in the world of this being biggest disappointment of the year, and I'm gonna hold Endless Ocean Luminous there.
Okay.
Purely because the first
loved that
game
Endless
was
Ocean
so magical and had just this incredible soundtrack that I think wasn't there in this game. And weirdly enough, with a game that is, I wouldn't call it bare bones, but it is a very specific chill vibes experience. The soundtrack actually is worth so much, and it just wasn't there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Great.
I think keep it.
All right, that one's staying. I have a pick.
yes.
Unless, Peter, you want
No,
to...
go ahead.
I'm going to go South Park Snow Day.
Oh, that was almost on your pocket league.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's atrocious. I even tried to play it, hearing people say, like, if you push past all the sort of mess of the design of it all, there's a fun game in there. And even more now, I think people are coming around on it and saying, I've warmed up to it even more. But for me, that was by adding more stuff to what was already a crammed, messy design for what... And again, massively disappointed knowing that South Park had really found their footing with their, like,
With the Ubisoft
RPGs.
games,
And
yeah.
then this was... And then I thought, they're going to go so far in the other direction almost as a joke. They're going to be taking the piss out of the, like, N64 version. That's what this is. But it wasn't. It just felt like it was a dirty game out that was designed to be, have microtransactions, stuff like that. So, which I don't think it really did, but it just felt like that. So it's grubby. I think it stays there. It was a huge disappointment for me.
Yeah. I mean, sticking with that left column, I think Silent Hill: The Short Message should be up there.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's just like a hugely disappointing thing to attach to that IP. Barely functional, not interesting, and just
Yeah.
it felt like, I feel like if it had come out now after Silent Hill 2 Remake has done well, the reception would be a bit different. But to put that out for Silent Hill fans in the sequence that it did, it was such a flat thing to receive and just was so odd.
Would you say the short message was poorly delivered?
I would say the short message could have been more succinct, even shorter.
The succinct message.
Just not existed at all.
Short message, too long.
So we got Silent Hill Short Message, Funko Fusion, South Park Snow Day, Endless Ocean Luminous.
Elephant in the room. 2 elephants. They're
yeah.
sitting here
One
right now.
elephant's too easy.
Welcome.
Well, this is the thing. Suicide Squad and Concord are
Yeah.
sitting here as what people would have maybe had their instinct to be drawn towards those. I would go into bat and defend both those games by saying that I played Concord. It was a well-made, performing shooter that was marketed terribly and that was at the fault of Sony more than the developers and the team behind that, and now no longer exists. It is funny how much it blew up and died.
Yeah.
I enjoy every bit of news around it. I consume it. I watch a lot of Skill Up, just pulls it apart every week and goes revisits that well, and it has yet to be fully dried. But as a worst game of the year, I disagree.
I would argue, because I played a little bit of it, and I would argue it's a great game that nobody asked for. That's
Yeah.
kind of-
Yeah.
It's folly.
And Suicide Squad is a disappointing version of a great game. And you can see where the great game can be in it, and there is fun in it. It's just a really messy game, and but I think from a storytelling perspective, delivered a lot of story really well. It gave you a nice playground to take those characters into. I had enough fun with it for me to be like, yeah, this is not a good game. It's never going to be on anyone's Game of the Year list, but it is not the worst game of the year.
This
it
category
feels rude for it to be there.
If this was most disappointing game, I think it might earn a Guernsey there. But I think it was just the fact that it was attached to IP that people adore.
Yeah.
And you just run a risk there if you do not nail that, and if you do not give it the love that people think that IP
And it
deserves.
also, it's living in the other awful shadow of Marvel Avengers. It's so similar that it not going beyond that scope just kind of...
I feel like,
backfired.
if you stripped it of everything to do with DC and you made it a wholly independent game, it probably wouldn't have done well anyway, but it would have felt still like the fun, and I finished it. So, did you play much of it?
I played 2 hours of it, but
Okay.
I enjoyed what I played for sure. Yeah,
The cutscenes and everything were just enough to pull me through. As you said, story was great. So we're all okay with giving them
keeping
a pass.
those two.
They disappear. So we just
They
have
can
one spot left after that. And again, this is just us finding something else for the chopping block.
How does
because-
everyone feel about the First Descendant?
First Ascendant is also fine. I played quite a few hours of that, and I think it's a game that will get better as time goes on as well. I think we might look back on that in 12, 18 months and go oh, they really found their footing with what they're
MMO
doing.
shooter?
MMO, well,
Third-person
not really
shooter?
massively multiplayer, but
Sure.
a looter shooter
Yeah.
with a bunch of story, trying to be a Destiny kind of replacement,
I
but
don't
in
think
a
it's getting
third-person perspective.
better. I think it's getting more predatory by all accounts. Everyone's saying it's just finding
Sure.
it
It's not a super Western-focused game.
Agreed, yeah.
So I think that's kind of the angle that they've taken, and I don't really have a problem with it. It's just about selling sexy bunny suits. And people are into that. So
That's true.
all power to them. I think
Okay.
it's just a bit of a nothing game as opposed to a horrible game.
No one here touched Alone in the Dark?
I touched an early preview of Alone in the Dark and thought it was cool, and then heard nothing about it and
Yeah.
didn't play it.
Yeah.
Apparently,
I
from
didn't even know
I've
what
heard,
happened. Is this a remaster
boring.
or an entire remake?
Alone in the Dark, it had not David Hayter?
David Harbour.
David Harbour.
And
that one?
It's pretty
Yeah.
much like a live act. Oh, sorry,
That's right.
it was doing the Until Dawn style.
Yeah.
Full detectives and an old
No
man.
idea.
Just
It
remembered.
flew under so many people's
Yeah.
radar.
And the girl from
Yeah,
what's it called?
they were both.
Come
they were-
on.
I'm not gonna remember.
Kill
'cause-
Interrupted. Angelina Jolie.
Kill-
Winona Ryder.
She had a crazy name. It was like
I
Kilania
can't.
or
it's-
some shit.
Cillian Murphy.
Kill.
Oh,
But it was-
no, Alicia Vikander. No, it wasn't her.
Not
Someone
sure.
in
People
that
are
realm.
screaming
But
at
obviously
this
this
video
is-
right
What
now.
is that show with her and
We're watching a
We're
trailer.
watching it. Just scrub.
Scream out in the comments of this video
Yeah,
that
yeah.
you knew it the whole time. and this is-
Villanique? Was that her name?
Oh, Villeneuve from Killing Eve.
Killing Eve.
Right, that woman, Jodie
Right.
Jodie
Foster.
Foster.
Or
Yeah.
Foster.
Yeah,
one,
I think
Is
this-
Jodie
Jodie
Foster is a
Comer.
very different. Yeah,
Jodie
Comer.
Comer.
Yeah,
That's right.
she's in
Yeah.
it.
I think this was just a
That's
bit
right.
dull as a kind of walk around, slow third person action game.
Yep.
It was acted well. It was pretty impressive to look at. But I think in a world where survival horror is having to do a lot these days to stand apart, you either remake what you did so well, a la Silent Hill and Resi, or you have to really break that mold. And this was just kind of like the soft in between that no one really enjoyed. But
The other one, I think this. I'm looking at this now. I'm like, there's no way this is the worst game of the year,
yeah.
right?
no,
Kong
Alan Wake comes out.
Survivor Instincts, so is in the ballpark. That's in the conversation.
it's
That's bad.
It's bad
it's
because
bad,
it's
yeah. It's just bad.
it's bad because it does feel like, and I really wanted to like it. It's almost a game that didn't have Kong in it developed, and then they put him in it. That's not how this played out, but it feels like this War of Mine style, linear game where you play a man who's returned home and found everything destroyed, and you just run along a like Limbo style, running through, and then Kong just sporadically appears and for set pieces like walks in the background. I think what they were going for was the size of scale, like making you feel like he's enormous and threatening.
Yep.
However, it's just I'd almost be happy to put it there because I got a little excited when I first saw it. I thought, oh, it's a unique take on a monster movie game. Like play as the person who's dwarfed by the monster, and reviews were pretty average. Definitely not Kong.
The one
other
from
one.
last year,
Kong's-
the reflection one.
Yeah, not
Kong's having a
that,
hard time of it.
but
Skull
it wasn't good. There was nothing laughable this year, was there? That was just so.
No,
like,
last year we had Gollum, we had Kong, we
yeah,
had
we had those fun ones. That this feels mean.
Yeah, look, I think Kong probably is up there. I don't know what Sledderhead is. I don't know what Dustborn is. Like Lollipop Chainsaw Repop is again just a disappointing thing.
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat Chaos Reigns
DLC that
was
felt
the DLC that
not great.
Yeah.
Dustborn like had a pretty bold art and style and look to it that just didn't land with a lot of people. And then people got defensive of it not landing, and it turned into a sort of maelstrom of argument versus is the game worth playing? And I think unfortunately the game probably was just a little mediocre as well, which people used to weaponize that, which meant the discussion wasn't
Well, that's
great.
the thing. A whole part of this year is another elephant in the room. Whole part of this year has been dunking on games for no other reason than some sort of like moral conundrum, which kind of stinks. It's hard. It's hard defining like how realistic a review score is, just based on the fact that so much discourse around games this year has been like nothing. You know what I mean?
I did see a lot of people go into bat for Dustborn, and then their reviews are like, the game itself is just not very well made.
Yeah,
either, though.
exactly.
So it's like, it's an awkward position to be in.
Yeah.
Anotria, the last song, I think we were looking at like, is a kind of Souls-likey Armor, just so forgettable. I think
Yeah.
that's why no one here remembers it. Casting of Frank Stone was another Man of Medan mystery. What are they called?
That was Dead by Daylight.
It's a
Dead
Dead
by
by Daylight
Daylight
crossover with Supermassive Games,
Supermassive.
who make
and
who make the Dark Pictures
Dark
anthology.
Pictures anthology.
Yep.
So yeah, out of all of that, I think kind of like Kong is the one that like
It's an IP game, so there's some expectation.
Yep.
It's disappointing, and it's playing in a genre that is doing really well. Like those side-scrolling horror games dark games are really popular, and so next to something like Little Nightmares 3 is coming out.
Yep.
It's like
there's
just doesn't
a
stand
zombie
up.
survival game that's currently out on Steam that's like you run around on a linear plane while the world is breaking down around you. Just looks almost identical to Kong Survivor Instinct, but it has a full fleshed out gameplay world and systems in it. So okay, that goes across. We are therefore knocking out
got our top 5.
The things that get to live through this are Alone in the Dark, Slitterhead, Lollipop Chainsaw Repop, Mortal Kombat 1, Dustborn, Onotra, and Casting of Frank Stone.
and
they
the
can
first
And the first
Ascendant.
Ascendant.
and the first Descendant. They
Yep.
can all leave the
Yep.
room.
Can I leave the room?
You may not.
I need that slower, Gus.
Yeah, no.
Okay. The one. Can you?
No.
Is it easier to just build the 5,
Totally,
Josh?
yeah.
Yeah, well, we've got 10.
No, we're only
No,
doing
5.
5 for this.
Okay,
This one.
that's all right.
Yeah.
Well, there's 5. So you've got Funko Fusion,
Yep. Silent
Endless
Hill.
Ocean Luminous, Silent Hill, South Park, and
Kong.
and now Kong. That's the
And
5.
now Kong.
Is our 5? Thank you.
I was trying to give the others their swan song away, but yes, I realize it's a
Yeah,
very
it is
confusing
made
way to
up.
Yeah,
shortlist a list.
that was
by doing it
crazy.
that way.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, this is a 10.
We don't have a 5. I said that.
We'll
No.
build it between this one and the
Yeah.
next one, and now you know
But-
which one's first.
Damn it!
I'm also, because that has happened, I'm going to go and... This morning I didn't set up... I was like, which lights work better on camera? I just set them up differently. Now I want them to match.
No one can tell.
I'm honestly stoked that we could really only pull 5 bad games together.
No,
this
you're right.
year.
But I'm sad that there wasn't the obvious choice this year. There was, and again, people watching this at home might be like, "Oh my god, Concord! Why didn't it get up there?" Or those ones that were massive disappointments. But I think they were still
In
Totally.
a list that is 10 long, Suicide Squad and Concord are on
Yes.
yes
the back
agreed.
half of the list, for sure.
But we're not here to shit on too many games. Just these 5.
Yep.
So out
this
of
order?
these, we need to order this.
Yeah.
Yep. So
Your game, Ruby, I feel like is still disappointing, but there's a functioning exploration game in
Oh,
that.
I think it's beautiful.
yeah, number 5 then.
So put it down
I
to
think
5.
I'd put it at 5.
yeah.
Yeah.
Number 5.
The 5 that sits right underneath that pockety there.
Put it in 6, move Kong to 2, and then you can move 6 to 5.
I'm chucking 11 in there.
Does that make it easy?
It's Christmas already. It's falling apart.
Do they know? Okay.
There you go.
Funko Fusion probably deserves to sit up there as well.
I think it does.
you know?
Yeah.
It was the game that came out and everyone's like, that can't work as a game, but maybe if someone's put this much time and effort behind it, it has
I
a
also think
Lego energy
not
to
a
it.
single person on the planet wanted it to work. So there's like just the desire to see Funkos disappear from the planet.
Yeah.
Generally,
Yeah. Yeah.
fueled my desire for this list to sit how it does right now.
Yeah.
They
yeah.
are independently responsible for plastic landfill. Like
Totally.
they are just the worst shit ever.
There are so
Not
many
independently, but they make a reasonable contribution.
Totally.
No, if I look at a big pile of rubbish, just Funko Fusion's just.
Jerry Seinfeld popping out of the top of it.
I'd actually argue that this order is probably
I think so,
perfect.
pretty
too.
much
It's pretty good, yeah. I didn't play South Park Snow Day. I don't have any ill will against it, but
You said it was.
massively disappointing
what,
for
what
you.
word did you use?
I think trash. I think I called it
No,
trash.
there was like a nice big word.
Oh,
Not abhorrent, but something else.
an abomination?
Kinda.
Abominable snowman? Snow day?
Ah.
It's just
That's
like
a lot of
for a
syllables.
for a game to make this list, I think it needs to be equal parts like not playable and disappointing as well. There has to, and for me, I love the South Park series. I like what they've evolved and matured into both as a series of cartoons and games. And this was like a huge regression.
Yeah. Well, then this is totally right. This list.
In you saying that they should be equal parts unplayable and disappointing, I'm not sure if Funko Fusion deserves to be at number 1 because.
Sorry, it deserves to be number one. There's
No,
not,
no, no.
But hear me out.
I'm
Hear me
not
out.
even going to
She
hear you out.
gets she gets
Hear
one.
me out.
Yeah.
Is it biggest disappointment if nobody was expecting it to be good?
It just doesn't matter because it says Funko in the title. so
I
that's very
disagree with that
clear.
because there were people who were the
Yeah.
people
People
were
did work on it.
intrigued.
Yeah.
They were like, "What is this? And why have they made it?" And then there was the promise of
They were also pitching it as a Lego game of IPs that wouldn't get a
Yeah.
Lego game, and
To be fair, I'm
Yeah.
just shitting on it for the sake of shitting
Yeah,
on it.
yeah.
I was
it's-
actually interested in seeing what it was after that first trailer. The first trailer I thought was really actually interesting. I was
Yeah.
like, oh,
Yep.
let's see what they do with this.
shame
but-
on them for trying to capitalize on the amount of broad IPs they scattered across in a way to say there's something here for everyone. There is Ghostbusters, there's Gremlins, there's Back to
Thing.
the Future, there's like The Thing, yeah, there's Shaun of the Dead, there's
Yeah.
all these, and they're like, is it a better game to put all them together? This was proof that it is.
Is this getting semi-edited?
No.
no.
No. Never mind. I'll say what I need to say after.
Oh,
Fortnite.
Okay.
interesting.
Ruby has things she doesn't even want to share with you guys. Take that whatever you will. Okay, we've got our list here. Worst game of the year 2024, starting from number 5. Endless Ocean Luminous. Thanks to Ruby. Kong Survival Instinct. Thanks to all of us. Disappointing. Come up with a better Kong game. Nothing beats Peter Jackson's Kong game.
Yeah.
Never will. Number 3, Silent Hill. The short message. Should have been shorter. Number 2, South Park Snow Day. Something witty. And number 1, Plastic Trash the game.
Nice.
Beautiful.
There it is.
More like Fucko Fusion.
Hey,
Is that what you were gonna say?
That's
Hell
that's,
yeah.
That's fantastic.
good.
Don't censor yourself. And don't censor us because we've got plenty more awards coming out on this channel too. So stick around and watch those.
Unless this was the last video.
Oh, yeah. We already said this. Or the first.
Well, if it's that's fine. If
That's
it's the
fine
first
if it
one.
was
We never worked out how to finish these.
Cut.
Feliz Navidad.